It's hard to go back. It's very tough to go back to the day that this tragedy happened. I'll never forget that night. I had a job and I was singing in Brooklyn. And towards the end of the job, somebody told me, by the way, I know you're going home soon, but something big happened to Klal Yisrael, a tragedy. And I didn't understand the full gamut of it. I said, what happened? I tried to find out. And of course we heard about it. And later on that night, obviously not a lot of people slept, and I kept tossing and turning, not able to sleep. And my wife Janine said, by the way, they can't find Yossi. So I met Yossi Kohn, alav shalom. I had the schus of meeting Yossi, I should say, through my dear friend Yaakov Shwekey.
So I get asked all the time, how do you know Yossi Kohn? How was it that, it's not just that you knew Yossi Kohn, but you became really close to him? And the answer is that Hashem gave me a gift. His sister lived near me, his uncle and aunt lived near me, and I don't know why. I just somehow gravitated towards his pure greatness.
I remember Friday, I'll never forget, there was a Friday right before Shabbos. There's a lot of things going on in the house. And Yossi comes and he sweeps, and everybody's taking showers, everybody's rushing, and this kid, alav shalom Yossi, and he's cleaning up and he's making sure the table's set. And I'm like, Yossi, did you take a shower? No, I want to get the house ready, and I know Yaakov's wife is working very hard. There's nobody here to help, so I'm gonna sweep up and I'm gonna do the dishes. And I'm gonna make sure. I said, Yossi, did you take a shower yet? Yeah, I'll get to myself later. Puts everybody else in front of him.
The first time I told Yossi that I'm good friends with Yaakov, he tells me, he says, really? He said, like friends? And I said, yeah. And so I told him, yeah, Yossi, let me introduce you to Yaakov Shwekey. Let me introduce you to the greatest, biggest singer in the world, because that's what I knew Yossi Kohn strived for. Yossi Kohn strived for perfection and greatness.
I really connected with him. He said, actually, on the next trip that we take together, he's gonna come along. I said, great, I wanna get to know him. Because when I first talked to Yossi, so even the first time, he had a certain energy about him. And he loved music, by the way. He loved getting together and listening to every type of music. And why did we feel to do an album in his memory? Music has a way that when you listen to a song, you go back in time. And certain songs are playing on this album. I'll never forget recording them for sure, whether it was here in my house in the studio, remembering Yossi, remember him singing the songs, remember him being so happy to sing on Shabbos together, and so I recorded these songs, I remembered him much better. It was a way Yaakov Shwekey gave us a tremendous gift in actually remembering a person through music. And he loved music, and he loved every type of song. So it was so appropriate to have an album of diverse type of music. Mizrahi, Israeli, you talk about Hasidic. Why is everything in memory of, why? Because Yossi was an embodiment of the full Jewish scope, the full everything. And that's what this Elevate project is all about. Every single song will embody what Yossi is all about. So enjoy it, and let's continue to elevate. Up, up, and up. 2, חבר'ה גדול. Bring up Benny Laufer, who did the Chuppah medley on this album. So I wanted to incorporate the young Laufer, along obviously with his father's help. And you listen to the Chuppah medley on this album, and you actually go back to the taste of Moshe Laufer, the old vintage way of arranging, but yet in a new concept, in a new way. And that's what this whole album, as I said, is about. It's taking older songs, but making it also very current, and also the arrangement should be different than every medley. And he did a spectacular job on the chuppah medley. You close your eyes in the chuppah medley, and you really feel that you're at a wedding and you're at a very emotional, ceremony.
1, 4.
All the bands elevated their game and their talent because they heard who Yossi was. And every single band took their artistic talent to another level on this album. You have a guy like Yoli Dickman who does weddings, and good friend of mine for many years, and does fantastic weddings every single night in Israel. Yet he can take his energy and put it towards an unbelievable Piamenta medley. Leilu Nishmas, my dear friend Yossi Piamenta, who I loved so much, who was an artist in his own right. But he gave it such an enthusiasm and an energy and the quality of today's recordings that to me was an amazing, amazing feat when I hear that medley. So the way we went about picking each band for each track was a tedious process, because each one of these artists are able to take a band of musicians and really get the best out of each one. And that's artistic talent. Like Mendy Hershkowitz, I knew right away, he's a big band guy. That's his sound. I mean, he could do a lot of things, but he can do it like really, really top shelf quality. And Mendy really came in. If somebody's gonna hear that medley, it's such a artistic arrangement in such a way that that's not a regular medley. You walk into an Israeli wedding, when you walk in, there is a certain sound and a certain feeling you get in Israel that you cannot get in America. Meron has been a friend of mine since I started singing, over 20 years. And he's been doing it on a nightly basis. The energy that he has and the singing and the vibe that he gives. I wanted people to also have in their minds like they're walking into an Israeli wedding. So if you take a guy out of the wedding element and you put him in a studio and you tell him, by the way, there's a chassan and kala here and there isn't. There's a studio. So he took his guitar and he actually played it in the studio. And he sent me videos. I said, Meron, I have to feel like I'm at a wedding. He says, okay. And so it's a matter of doing it a few takes, but he did an amazing job. Meron is a good friend of mine. He was actually one of the first calls because I know him for so long. And he said, yeah, when am I going to the studio? I got to take my band, I got to do it. He was so enthusiastic about it, so I thank him. And of course I thank every single person that put so much energy and so much time into their medleys. So I talked about walking into an Israeli wedding, but now I also want people, when they listen to it in Israel, to feel like they're walking into an American wedding. And who does the great, more Hasidish dance sets is none other than Naftali Schnitzler, who actually produced this album. And he was able to take his energy and his Hasidic feel, and he did many styles too. But I felt that in the first dance set, you need somebody, you can hear these songs many times, millions of times, repeat the same, and you can just sing it like that, and then you can sing it with a certain rhythm and a certain energy that gives that dance set, its uniqueness. And Naftali Schnitzler hit it out of the park. He did fantastic, Naftali. So Hershey Weinberger, my dear friend, he brought so much so much flavor to this album Hershey did. He has a phenomenal mind. I love the way he approaches certain things. He approaches vocals, he approaches, we did a lot of stuff together. When we sat, me and him, either in my house studio or in House of Music, and when we sat together coming up with different approaches, how we're going to do different things. He's the composer of Boo Shabbos, Boo Shabbos, Boo Meniche, Boo Shabbos. So Hershey has a certain heart, and he has a tremendous artistic talent of how to approach certain things. So Hershey was phenomenal on this album. I was looking around, who can do a Middle Eastern sound that I haven't done before? A Middle Eastern sound that brings like even a Moroccan flavor to it, and a totally electronic way, that fusion of electro, Moroccan, regular Middle Eastern songs that I've done in the past, and fuse it all together in one medley. It was a tedious process how to find a guy, David Baton. I mean, it's amazing. I listen back to it now, and I can't help but say, wow, this is something, unique. We haven't done that before. This Mizrahi set on this album is different from past album Mizrahi sets that we've done in a way that gives it a lot more punch, a lot more energy, a lot faster BPM, faster paced songs. I actually brought a guest singer that I've sang with out of the country in Morocco and in Paris and in all these different types of simchas that I've done. And I spent actually a Shabbat in Morocco with him. His name is Avi Ohayon. And they did so much Moroccan stuff at this wedding, at the Shabbos. They sang a lot of Moroccan stuff, and everybody was jumping. And even on the table, at the Shabbos table, we sang till 2, 3 in the morning. And I'm just sitting there singing along in some of the songs, but just enjoying the whole vibe. And I asked him, Avi, by the way, I'm thinking about doing a diverse album of a lot of energetic Mizrahi sets. Would you come? He said, of course. So he actually recorded, he does some of the singing on this. But so it's different in that way, that we brought a lot of, authenticity, but yet David Baton did an amazing job. And I told him when I heard it, every time I hear it, I actually send him a message of how great of energy and fast-paced. And also I record actually a lot of my older songs on there, like Ki Tov, Inshallah, and those type of songs, but in that vibe. So that was amazing. Another medley I want to talk about is Avrami Burko. Avrami Burko is a dear, dear friend of mine that's been on the wedding scene for many, many years. Very, very multi-talented. He actually arranged for me on my last studio album, Ayid. He arranged Aleph Beis Gimel. He composed also a little bit. Very, very talented guy. But he loves the electro, pop type of sound. That's what he loves. Of course, he can do it all. But you listen to Avrami Burko's, again, my older songs, it starts with Baruch Atah Hashem. It's an old song. Actually, my older brother composed the song, my first album. But the way he gives it with that feel, with the electro feel, and he's just a workaholic to get things perfect. I talk about the Kumsitz medley, and Dovi Meisel's my dear friend. He has a talent of, besides his singing ability and his guitar playing, there is a certain ability that when he takes the mic, the band members behind him have a certain soothing sound that people want to sing along with. To me, that's an art.
There's no better way to bring out the message of who Yossi Kohn was, of making people feel great, of doing greatness to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, than having music done through Yaakov Shwekey. Yaakov Shwekey is somebody that can elevate people through his emotion, through his pure greatness. And that's how we came up with this project of bringing people together bringing a message together from all walks of life, all different types of people, Hasidish, Litvish, Sephardish, Israeli, Americans, everybody. You have so many different diverse musicians coming together here to bring out the message of what? Of life is great, let's steig, let's do more, let's be happy with what we have. And with that, let's elevate to greatness, to be closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And I'll never forget the conversation I had with Yossi's mother, speaking about Yossi, alav shalom, and who he embodied and how he made everybody feel good, and how he walks into yeshiva and every type of kid, as he's going to his seat, is getting up to say hi to him. And I was telling his mother on the phone, there's no greater way to remember Yossi. There's no greater way. Singing along, but yet taking also the lessons of who he was and how he lived and how he loved and how he was able to just get everybody together on one mission. That's who Yossi was.
Melech malchaya veluchim kori boinu lam ve'yum